1919 was quite a historic year in many ways. The Treaty of Versailles was signed to end World War I. On 25th October 1919, at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, the Medical Women International Association was formed. Dr. Esther Lovejoy was chosen to be the first president. Popularly known by its acronym MWIA, the Medical Women International Association was established to champion the cause of female medical doctors around the world.
We were founded, listen to this, in 1919. Next year, in a few months' time, we celebrate our centenary. We are older than the UN, than the WHO, than many other medical associations. Just like mothers, we gave birth to all these international associations.
The motto of the association is Matris Animo Curante, healing with a touch of a mother. And the main objective of the association is to make an impact in women's health globally.
Because I've been asked by many people, why do we need actually an all-female association? You know, men suffer in medicine. You know, women are increasing in numbers. There will be more medical students which are female. You know, women actually dominating very soon the medical world. We don't need an association for women. And I said, of course, it is important because we are strong in numbers, but I think we have still some room for being strong in achievements, saying equal pay, you know, having equal rights, having a voice on politics. And I realized that when it comes to decisions about health and health issues, women are not often at the table. Or not.
As I've said many times before, in different meetings all over the world, there must be nothing about women without women sitting at the table. When we become leaders, we can change situations because we are in those positions.
The Near East and Africa region held a conference from the 12th to 14th November 2018 in Nairobi, Kenya. The magnificent Movenpick Hotel was the venue for this meeting, which attracted over 400 participants.
We meet every 3 years to forge a way ahead, to reassess what we have done before. Are we satisfied with it? Are we making inroads? What is the innovative way out? How do we move forward from where we have been? How do we improve our services and our vision, our aim? How do we improve it in this ever fast changing world? And then we meet around a theme, okay, to network, to seek new informations, new data, so that we can go back into our various places of work and our various countries and continue to do what we do with improved knowledge and improved values. That's why we called women from all over the world to meet here in Nairobi, Kenya for this 3-4 days conference.
The theme for the 2018 conference was Accelerating Women's Health Agenda, Priorities and Opportunities through SDGs. The conference was hosted by the Kenya Medical Women's Association. Its current president is Dr. Christine Sadia.
It is my sincere gratitude and honor to welcome the delegates of the 2018 Nairobi Mwia Regional Conference for Near Eastern Africa. And therefore, the sisters in Kenya, thank you for the emissaries that you did and even reaching out to other sisters. We did it the first time when Dr. Manguyo was in command, and we have done it again. So we thank God for it. We don't boast about it, but it is God's grace that we are here today.
The chief guest at the conference was Honorable Beth Mugo, who is a nominated senator in Kenya. She's also a former cabinet minister for public health.
The progress of a society is determined by the consciousness of its women. For this reason, I take this early opportunity to commend the Medical Women International Association for coming together to promote health. I find the theme of this conference, which is Accelerating Women's Health Agenda, Priorities and Opportunities through Sustainable Development Goals, and the African Union Agenda 2063, very relevant and timely. This conference comes to Kenya at a time when our President, His Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta's government has declared the promotion of affordable health as one of his big 4 development agenda and as his legacy. It is my hope that at the end of this conference, we shall come out more energized with new ideas and concrete measures that can help improve the health of the people, especially women and children.
The keynote address was given by Dr. Joyce Banda, the first female president of the Republic of Malawi and the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation, which works to advance the status of women in the country.
It is an honor for me to be with you here in Nairobi on the occasion of the Medical Women's International Association Regional Conference for Far East and Africa. I would like to congratulate the Kenya Medical Women's Association for hosting this conference at a time such as this and taking leadership in advocating for women's health and well-being throughout the region. Leadership is a love affair. You must fall in love with the people you serve, and the people must fall in love with you. When I became president, the very first week before I appointed my cabinet, I set up what I called the Presidential Initiative on Maternal Health and Safe Motherhood. In 2 years in Malawi, we were able to reduce maternal mortality from the 675 I had found to 460 per 100,000 live births, a reduction of 30%. Not that 460 women dying giving birth is acceptable and anything to be proud of, but a reduction of 30% in 2 years gave a signal to the African Union that when a leader gets involved, it can be done. We can stop this unnecessary death. And so the African Union gave Malawi an award in 2013 for this achievement. So when women die giving life in any country, and the figures keep going up, it is the fault of the leader, and we shall hold them accountable. And I'm glad the African Union is here, because now we shall name and shame, because presidents must put in place programs that will reduce maternal mortality. It's a necessary death. It's not even in the Bible that we shall have pain and then we shall die. They didn't say that. So we don't have to die, and I refuse that we should die. And I am asking my fellow leaders on the continent that enough is enough. We shall not die giving life. May God bless you.
Key stakeholders who supported the conference included the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, and the Africa Union.
I think for 100 years, the UN after 70 years has started to undergo some reform. And I think for the Medical Women International as well, it's time that our thinking, our approach, our strategy also has to begin to change. The knowledge you have shared in this room, it's knowledge that you have as individuals, you have in your respective institutions, you have in the academic world. It is available. I think it's time that we have to begin to move into spaces that are unconventional. Because the change that would happen It would not happen in the families, it would not happen in your clinics, it will happen in the political space. And therefore, it is time that the numbers that you have begin to propel you to impact squarely on the political arena. And so I look forward to a time when this conference will not just be looking about women's health, child health, reproductive health, sexual health. It will be looking at things of moving the needle and impacting the space.
But this morning I stand here on behalf of Ambassador Macharia Kamau, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and a champion of the SDGs, having co-chaired their authorship, and also a champion of women's rights. I want to reiterate that we must all recognize from the beginning that the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the aspirations of Africa's development as espoused in Agenda 2063 will not and cannot be achieved until and unless the challenges that face women and girls are comprehensively addressed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the AU Agenda 2063 builds on this kind of initiatives, and later on we will be presenting Agenda 2063, and we will want you to ask us questions on how we intend to push the women's agenda beyond this Mwia Conference. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency the President, Your Excellency Senator Mogo, the Chief Guest, I want to say that the African Union is very pleased to be part of this process. I thank you.
Other prominent stakeholders also graced the conference, and they all had some wisdom to share with the participants.
Women's health means health for all, because women bring up a new generation. They are the future of this region. And it's only when we have a healthy population that society can develop and advance.
The conference had several plenary sessions and parallel meetings with presentations by top women scientists from the region and beyond.
So there's attempts to blame systemic healthcare and workplace challenges on women in medicine. The fear that women work shorter hours, a fear echoed last year by a male doctor in the US who said that if women physicians want to make more, they should just work harder. Other pushback includes the fact that women are choosing to go into family medicine, pediatrics, psychiatry, and OBGYN have the highest number of women in medicine, and we are lacking women in orthopedics and not making progress in diagnostic radiology and neurosurgery. Studies have found that women physicians are 5 times more likely to experience opposition to career advancement and 3 times more likely to experience actions they perceive to be disrespectful or punitive within the workplace. So what we don't like, we try to change. So we are disruptors. Whatever is needed, we try to do. So we advocate for policies on gender-based discrimination and harassment. So we have disrupted the traditional practice of medicine, and we need to keep being disruptors.
So, in our country, Mali, we say that the maternal rate of mortality is very high. We say this again and again. I've got to say that this rate that we qualify as high represents what is really documented in hospital census. That is to say that sometimes we haven't had a study in Mali talking about maternal and the deaths that are happening in the households. The number of people who die is very high for comparing what happens at home and in hospitals, and we haven't really had an evaluation since 2012. Now, given the results, we are able to see that maternal mortality and the number of children who die, this is not very well documented back home. using new technology, just like the mobile phone, this has really helped us to carry out this study. So this mobile phone can be really a very good tool to improve the results, to improve the way we are carrying out things. And then we could now come up with decisions to take care of children and mothers.
We would really like to know what is the number of total deliveries given this high mortality rate in one village.
In one health district, you can get about 30 villages. So it's not a single village, but we're talking about 2 health districts. And in one health district, you can get a number of villages. So it's on a period of 15 months.
What are the reasons for these maternal deaths? We know that women don't show up to the clinic soon enough. They don't feel that they have the financial means to access these services. The quality of care at the healthcare facilities is poor. They're very often, especially in rural areas, understaffed, poor medication supply. And this this needs to be addressed comprehensively because there's so many different problems addressing it at the same time.
Another aspect that is worsened by conflict is the critical situation of the women and children's health. As you're going to see, according to the statistics that you're going to present, in the DRC, we have an increase of maternal and infant morbidity and mortality. We also have sexual violence cases that are worsened by conflicts because here women are attacked by armed groups, and in statistics you're going to see that there are a lot of women who are raped in the DR Congo, and this is on the increase. Today, thanks to this conference that you've organized, we need to focus on these areas that have been forgotten, these areas that are unsupported, and where women are dying, to ensure that in the coming days they have access to quality health care.
In the 4 countries in which I've worked, Chad, Niger, Northern Cameroon, that Nigeria is more advanced in holding facilities. The sad story is that the women suffer sometimes what we call a second violence because they have to be interrogated. In the process of interrogating them, or and in sometimes counseling them, you find out that they have greater affinity to their captors, or that indeed they have willfully joined Boko Haram. So give an example. When some of the Chibok girls came back, they weren't allowed to see their families. They had to be kept for a while, and information was being gotten from them, and at the same time they were being counseled, but they received further education and they are being reintegrated, albeit slowly, but there's a process in place. And it's very patchy. Like I said, you'll find some countries are much further along than others in dealing with this situation.
I want to say that the whole discussion about AU Agenda 2063 is looking internally, not going to G8. Remember, I took civil society to G8. No more civil society to G8. Civil society to Cameroon, to Dakar, to Addis Ababa, to Maputo, internally. That is the first thing about AU Agenda 2063. We must connect ourselves. We must integrate as a continent. Integration is about roads. It's about trading together. It's about speaking the same language. Interpretation is one of the most expensive budgets we are running as a continent. It's about making sure our local languages, the ones which are spoken in common areas, Swahili in Eastern Africa, Hausa in Northern Africa, Shona, or whichever other dialects that we share, we try and use them.
Thank you. So I'll call our third speaker. Looks like we are doing something about the issues of women in difficult situations. Our third speaker is Dr. Na Adokul Tetei, President of the Medical Women Association of Ghana. She has a MBCHB, University of Ghana Medical School, a physiologist at the Accra College of Medicine, and she is married with 3 children.
We have a problem. Over 85% of invasive cervical cancer cases which are diagnosed in the world come from our part of the world. We are not doing well.
On the question of cancer, for instance, in the recent years, the problem of cancer has risen gradually into a full-blown international health crisis and concern as one of the leading causes of death in the world. One of the biggest hurdles in tackling the problem of cancer is lack of awareness.
That early detection saves lives. Most cancers in this country are detected quite late, in stage 3 or 4, and then it becomes a financial nightmare, it becomes an emotional crisis, and sometimes, and often the outcomes are not great.
I'm a breast cancer survivor. I thank God that in my case, it was detected early during a routine checkup, and I was therefore treated early, and 6 years ago, I was declared cancer-free. I believe that with awareness, we can save lives. We can remove stigma.
I understand in this audience, all of us know that family planning, particularly access to safe and voluntary family planning, is human right. And we also saw that family planning is central in gender equity and women's empowerment, reducing poverty, and achieving sustainable development. We saw that several human stories there that if women has no access to family planning, this threatens their ability to build a better future for themselves, for their families, and for their, communities.
Next. Let's look at what we found with just the abortion patients. And so we look at the individual data. These were youngish women. You can see most of them were between 20 and 29. Most of them were married. Level of education varied between primary, secondary, so most of them were around the secondary education. We looked at incomplete, septic, and complete. And you can see if we look at septic compared to the incomplete and the complete, we see that more women would die if they had a septic abortion. They would have a more chance of having a near miss. So you know that if you have a septic abortion, your complications are much higher, which is an indication that unsafe abortion continues to be a public health issue in Africa. So the way forward is to increase access to safe abortion services and family planning so that these unwanted pregnancies do not occur and women do not have to resort to unsafe abortions. Thank you very much.
About half of unmarried women in Kenya report that their current pregnancies are either mistimed or unintended, and women also experience high rates of violence from male partners, and in most cases, intimate partner violence is associated with contraceptive failure.
On average, there are up to 1 billion people who lack access to basic services. Secondly, another 1 million people fall into poverty every year because of paying for health services. And it has been shown that 1/3 of households in Africa and Southeast Asia have to borrow money whenever somebody falls sick and they have to seek treatment. And lastly is that there is a demonstrated return on investment. When we put money into health, it's been shown that an investment of just $1 could translate to up to $9 to $20.
We also looked at how do we make it as a goal gradient, so that you do not have to, you may not be able to get 500 shillings in a day, but you can get 20 shillings, you can get 100 shillings, just $1. If you can able to reinforce it in the phone, it can be able to help you when you're actually sick. And this is able to, by the end of the month, you will have the 500 to pay for your premium.
Insurance field has always discriminated against women. They don't pay for gynecological problems. There are certain illnesses they don't pay for that women suffer. Has this changed? If not, what can be done? Because the Constitution of Kenya is the #1 defender, and it has declared equity in all fields, including inheritance. If women can inherit land, why can't we get full coverage like men? Thank you.
In many countries, the right to health is not only in their national constitution, but also in the various human rights instruments that those countries have ratified. The context in Kenya at the moment in provision of free maternal health services, we have moved from the 2013 public policy on providing women and girls access to free maternity services, and we've moved that to service, the same service, but now in terms of the mode of financing, the implementation is now through the National Health Insurance Fund, and we've called it Linda Mama.
One of the areas that we're looking at is to what extent are women getting information around Linda Mama program, which is basically a free maternity service that is supposed to be given to women. And therefore, if you are not registered, it means that you cannot access the facility. You are not even aware what kind of services are offered under this free maternity service that the government is providing. What is free when it comes to quality maternal health care? Those are the questions the governments need to answer. And
do teenagers have reproductive health rights? Those are questions that we ask ourselves every time, especially if you work in the non-government sector, or if you're a lawyer and representing an adolescent in court or trying to champion for their rights. You also ask yourself whether the right for teenagers to, if the teenagers have a right to access family planning. But as long as you recognize them also as human beings, then they are part of this sustainable development goal. When you speak about health, you also speak about their health and all the services that they need.
So as a national commission, one of our mandates is to receive complaints from members of the public, including organizations, about human rights violations. And so I'm focusing only on the issues of women and girls with disabilities. So as disabled women in an African community, we have been branded to be without sexual desires and excluded from entering into any marital relationships. And I think the stigma that exists in society against women and girls with disabilities is really part of, lays the foundation for some of the discrimination that they face in accessing healthcare services.
One of the cases in my portfolio happens to be women who suffered sexual violence in northern Uganda. One of the greatest challenges, of course, that I envisage in the courts of law is the presentation of evidence, and in particular medical evidence. I intend, of course, to rely on the expertise of medical personnel, especially those who offer psychosocial care and support, because I do note that every time I go to the field to speak to these ladies, they exhibit the consequences of the trauma they underwent. So for me to impress it on the court, I will need a professional to do that. And I'm glad to report that we have quite a few that we are working with, and we hope that we will be receiving justice at the end of it all.
Sustainable Development Goal number 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions
It calls for the reduction of all forms of violence. Now, reduction of sexual violence can be achieved through strengthened enforcement of laws in our jurisdictions, resolute court judgments, medical legal reports on sexual violence which supports the survivor's account, meticulous history taking which enables precise documentation and collection of trace evidence. Where you do not have a complainant who is able to articulate their case, maybe because of age or because they have a challenge, then the medical evidence is very, very important and should be given in a proper way.
Distinguished delegates, the 3 days of deliberation has been very intense, and you must agree with me that whatever that we have taken from this conference, if put in a resolution and in books, and if we follow through, then the Nairobi Declaration, if it were to be named so, would be one of the richest that could propel the women's movement, but particularly the health practitioners and women doctors to take a lead in this continent. I therefore would not like to speak today as the chairperson, but I will convert myself to a moderator and ask one of my sisters, I would ask with a sister who is the founding chair for Kenya Medical Women's Association, Professor Miriam Mwere, to say a few words on behalf of our sisters in Kenya that have hosted this conference.
So we have got a new life and we have got a future. I just have one message from my observation of almost 50 years as a medical doctor. We better get to the families. If we are going to accelerate women's agenda, we better get to the families and the communities. If we don't get to the communities and we don't get to the families, we shall accelerate our own health, maybe, but not the health of women. We have to change, especially for those coming from Africa, we have to change what is happening in the community and what is happening in the family. So all the best as you wait for the closing session. It has been wonderful, and may you all have a great future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will call the next sister, Dr. Florence Manguyu.
You know, I have come to learn through the time of my medical work that health is made at home. Hospitals are for repairs and maintenance, garages. We need to be able and to be enabled to do what we need to do at home. We cannot do it alone, but we are the driving force. So we thank Kenya as a whole, and we want you to take this ahead to whoever you may have to report to, for giving us the opportunity to hold this conference, which is the second of the Medical Women's Association International, since we held one in 1993. So we feel very proud about this, and we are continuing to work hard to make sure that issues of health, not just women, but issues of family health are taken forward. But we agree, and we have no apologies to make, that we are on the driving wheel.
Yeah, following in a queue as she has a president-elect, therefore I would like to call Clarissa to make a few remarks.
I came to Africa with some priorities from my base in the UK. I come here and I can see that Africa has some of the same priorities, but there are many, many more pressing issues. And I've learned so much about those. And tomorrow I'm going to go and visit the slums. I'm going to meet with a person who deals with the community. I've spoken with so many people, so I feel much better equipped to present your case and to publicize your problems and I'm going to really try and be your ambassador in the future. Thank you.
I would like to ask a very good friend of Mwia who has supported us all the way, and therefore it is my single privilege to ask Dr. Amit Thaka to come and give a few words.
It is now very clear that a woman's health is the center of the household. But besides being the center of the household, it is the center of the family, and it is also the center of the community. And with that healthy community, you will get a healthy region, and it will provide a healthy growth for the economy. So in the end, a woman's health is directly proportional to prosperity and economic growth of the country. So the agenda that you've embarked on is fully represented and fully supported by the private sector.
It really has been a wonderful meeting of heads, hearts, and minds here. I have learned an awful lot. I have learned especially about the spirit of Ubuntu, being our sisters' keepers. I have interacted with those who left the ladder leaning against the wall so that we could climb up. People like Florence Manguyu, the very first African international president of the Medical Women's International Association. I have learned that I too need to leave a ladder leaning against the wall for our younger colleagues to be able to climb up. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. God bless.
So my major task actually is directing a center of excellence for women, child, adolescent research, and to give space and to mentor the young generation. And I'm happy that some of them are here in the audience, the young generation of future leaders in health, in education. Because the reality is that we are the advocates for women's health, but still, look at the professors at university. It's mainly men. Because women need to be supported. They need more mentorship to be at that age where they have indeed a young family and they have to do the clinical work and then they want to make a career academically. So we need support, we need mentorship, and that is actually what I'm trying to do in the next phase of my life here. So let's work all together and make sure that we can improve the lives of the women, the men, the wananchi in Kenya, and in this continent. Thank you very much.
We are saying, yes, you're doing well with the women's health, but we need to hurry it up. The presentations, the various talks, as invigorating and innovating and wonderful as they have been, they've also been very heart-wrenching, very sad, difficult to listen to at times. And so we are saying, please hurry up. Governments, hurry up. Stakeholders, hurry up. Politicians, hurry up. Accelerate women's health agenda. We've caused a stir that we are praying and hoping. And we, Medical Women International Association, are going to make sure that it gathers momentum and it explodes, so that every woman on this continent and in this world will be cared for. We thank you, Dr. Sadia and Mwia, for putting up such a wonderful show.
We are coming to a stage where we need to hear a few things about the resolution, just a summary, a snapshot of the summary.
So the Mwia Regional Conference on Accelerating Women's Health Agenda, Priorities and Opportunities through UN SDGs and AU Agenda 2016. The conference communique is about we, the delegates at this conference for far Near East and Africa, held at the Movenpick Hotel in Nairobi from November 12th to 14th, 2018, to explore opportunities and priorities in addressing women's health as a critical enabler of human development. We hereby therefore agree on the following recommendations. The Medical Women International Association, in conjunction with the United Nations agencies, African Union and national governments, to take political, legislative, administrative, and other measures to do the following. 1, make universal health coverage real, free, and meaningful, because this will significantly enhance access to and affordability to health services for women. Thank you so much.
So we are here in this meeting to share experiences, to share ideas, so that when we get back home, we'll be able to implement some of these new ideas and bring the African continent in line with the ideas and policies of the Medical Women International Association, of which this is a regional conference.
And I've been excited to connect and to have a networking with the successful medical women doctors from different countries and successful mentors.
Well, we should be bold, because we've learned that most countries, the parliament, the legislative system don't have enough women in key decision-making parts, and then we don't come out to let our voice be heard. We are encouraged to take part in the politics and then enter into key decision-making areas so that we can actually make policies that will impact positively on women.
The closing ceremony was marked with pomp and color.
To tell you that the reason that this conference is a real success is because you've got one persistent Dr. Christian Sadia. Persistent. She doesn't take no for an answer. I want to say I celebrate you and everything that you do.
It is my duty and single pleasure to call Dr. Ademola to come and give your remarks and call on the guest of honor to speak. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for me, it's another unique pleasure to be here again at the closing ceremony after being present at the opening. So my points are simple. It's important for us to advance the healthcare of our communities, no doubt. But it's also very important for us to enhance our well-being collectively, not only as professionals, but particularly as women professionals. The recommendations you have made as called upon the African Union, as called upon United Nations agencies and national governments to midwife some of the change that you need. Can I assure you that they will not give you that space, you have to take it. And to take it, you have to leverage your numbers, you have to leverage your intellect, you have to leverage your capacity. I always say this all the time. In our medical school, the number 1 and 2 were girls. No matter what we did, we could not beat them. And so you have the intellectual capacity. It is time for you to deploy it to make meaningful change. So at this point, it's my singular honor to invite the chief guest, Honorable Pasaris, to speak to us.
So I want to commend you all for investing your time, investing your knowledge, sharing your experiences, because that is the only way that we can achieve the SDGs by 2030, we can achieve Agenda 2063, and we can make our world a better place and ensure that we leave no one behind. It is now with great pleasure that I declare the workshop officially closed. Thank you, and God bless you.
The conference was certainly a success, with the participants raring to go to their member countries and implement some of the ideas and new knowledge gleaned from the conference.
But